Oh man, my hair's all like
Did you just roll on a bed, bro? What the fuck?
deadlifts, man. It'll do it to you.
Oh, I love it.
And we're live.
And we're live.
Yeah, my hair's all messed up. Welcome back to another edition of Dieting Donuts with
Jared
and Grant.
And we need someone else to say and. Jared Grant.
Just wait for Remy to give a
Yeah, no shit. Dude, I'm digging the flannel.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll probably get hot here in a second. Have to take it off.
Probably.
Wanted to give a huge shout out to James Teal out there.
Why?
Guess what, man? He PR'd on some impressive bench. It's like what, 425?
You know, there's like Thor motherfuckers on here, and they're just like, for a warm up. Like,
but yeah, so he hit. What did he hit? He hit 275 on squats today. So
Jimmy did.
Yep. So huge shout out to Jimmy.
Wait, Jimmy can do more than 275.
Hey. He PR'd tonight. All right, it was 275.
Oh, Jimmy.
Yeah. Jimmy. Yeah. No, James Teal. Jimmy, huge shout out to you.
He was trying to.
I'm just giving him shit. He told me not to make people think that he was weak on here. So
Jimmy is a weak little bitch, and I'm gonna suffer for that comment later.
And to Brian, he had a pretty impressive deadlift tonight too. So.
Let's keep it to natties, please. Fuck you, Brian.
Fuck you, Brian.
All right, that's great.
So tonight's topics. I forget how we worded the first one, but it's basically along the lines of like realistic expectations, just as a whole. Like we're going to cover all kinds of different stuff.
Oh yeah, and then we're also going to after that get into basically long story. I can't remember how I worded it. Basically,
like what to do if you
gained back the weight you lost. Yeah, basically how to handle it, what to do if you like lost a bunch of weight and then you gained it all back, because that can be a very depressing and discouraging thing. But we can definitely show you how to fix that. Your mic is all sorts of bougie right now. Yeah, all right, we're good. So so you want to start off while I smash into a donut because for the sprinkles?
Realistic expectations. So I think that this is so we should probably start like why we even thought that this would be a good topic. So one of the biggest things that I think end up deterring a lot of people from continuing on in their fitness journey is they think that it's just a giant waste of time because they've set themselves up with these unrealistic expectations of,
90 pounds in 90 days.
Yeah, like 90 pounds in 90 days, or,
Grab it quick.
And I mean, I think that really goes like in a lot of different directions. So like in terms of like how much muscle you can put on in a year. Like I think a lot of people have this unrealistic expectation of what you can actually put on in a year. And and we'll talk about that here in a second, but I did some Googling and like depending on what site you went to, like some people said that you could gain like 20 plus pounds. One site said that you could gain like 40 plus pounds in a year.
And then buy my fat burner.
Yeah. And then, I mean, then you have a lot of, he is going hammer.
Really quick.
And then, you've got a lot of people saying that you can just lose like, copious amounts of weight super quickly. And, and the issue with that is once you get in there and you start your journey and you're like, well, man, I'm comparing myself to all this information that's out there online and, I can't hold up against it. If other people are putting on 40 pounds of muscle in a year and I'm only going to put on 2, well, then I should probably just stop. Right. And no, that's not the case. So that's why we're talking about it, because I think to really kind of go towards your goals, you need to first have realistic expectations and goals set for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be, aiming for the moon and then landing.
Well, I want to chime in on that.
Real far south.
Yeah, no, I want to chime in on that though, because here's the thing: proper expectations can like make or break an experience. So like imagine this. Imagine if you one of my favorite examples is imagine if I'm going to give you a dog and you're expecting a dog from me and I give you a cat. You're like, oh, that's not that you may not be against cats, but like you're expecting a big ass dog and you get a little ass cat. Or imagine you were wanting I was going to give you a dog and I ended up giving you 17 dogs. Like that changes everything. Like imagine like this. Have you ever like accidentally, like you thought you were going to drink coffee and you go to drink coffee.
Like your milk story,
yeah.
right?
And it's like tea, and you're just like, oh, I got coffee. I like tea, but I was expecting coffee and I got tea, and it
Right.
ruined the experience or burns you on milk for the rest of your fucking life. That happened to me as a kid. I was expecting Kool-Aid. I got milk, and I'm just like, and it fucking scarred me.
Yeah, and it's not even like you're necessarily like, disgusted by like one or the other, but when you're expecting something,
Yeah.
and you get the opposite,
Because
it
you're,
leaves a bad taste
Yeah.
in your mouth.
because experience is everything, and a lot of times people have a bad experience because like for example, I had a lady quit a program of mine one time. She was in the tribe, and she messaged me like on a Monday and said, Jared, I'm down 3 pant sizes. My clothes are falling off of me, and I lost so much weight I had to move my wedding ring to my middle finger because I've lost so much fat. So she messaged me that on a Monday. By Wednesday, I got another message that said, Jared, I am in tears. I'm literally ready to quit and throw in the towel. It's not worth it. I'm done. I haven't lost any weight. And I go, and I screenshot what she sent me Monday. And I'm like, whoa. What happened to this? And she said, yeah, but I haven't lost any weight.
Oh, really?
Like the scale would say the same, but she was down 3 pant sizes. So it's stuff like that. Like she obviously didn't understand how sometimes she was expecting the weight to come off. And a lot of times the scale won't move, but other metrics will.
Right.
Or I've seen people literally like, there's a guy one time that I know that he ended up losing like, I don't know, 2 pounds in a month. And he was so upset by losing 2 pounds in a month and not 8. He like binged and like got super emotional and like fell off the wagon because he's like, I only lost 2 pounds this month. And I'm like, bro,
I mean,
you made fucking progress this month. Like a lot of people don't understand that. That's the game. A lot of people, unfortunately, because of Facebook ads, Dr. Oz, and a lot of unethical people, they set people's expectations crazy. Like they'll see the back of a fat burner pill bottle and it'll have a before and after picture, and it's like 90 pounds in 90 days. And that's what people expect. And that is anything but how this game works.
Well, I mean, and it's just so psychologically devastating. I mean, it really did. I mean, it messes you up if you think that like going into it, that you're going to be able to like, do all this crazy stuff that you see online, that you read online, that you hear from friends. And then you get in there, and here's the kicker too. Like most of the time, you're actually making really good fucking progress.
I've seen people
really
get
good
so
progress.
shitty because they've only lost 3 or 4 pounds in
Yeah.
a month. And I'm like, a pound a week, bro. That's fast as fuck. No, my friend Karen lost 15 pounds in a month.
Say keto.
Yeah, because keto. Fucking garbage.
That was poor timing on our part.
We both shoved a donut in our mouths.
So let's
We really need this is a really good topic.
what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about like muscle gain? Do you want to talk about fat loss?
Let's talk fat loss.
Fat loss.
Like, what is good fat loss progress?
So good fat loss progress in my eyes. And so again, this can be okay, so if we're talking about realistic expectations, a good realistic expectation could be about 1% of your total body weight per week. But that, and I'm hesitant to even say that because that can still be so anywhere from like maybe I don't know, 0.5% to 1%, because like something that you have to understand too, like if you're say like a 160-pound male that's at 12% body fat, losing 1% of your total weight per week, that's probably going to be pretty hard, right? If you're already that low in body fat percent. So, and again, it also has a lot to do with, where you currently are. If you're, someone that, is, 30+% of body fat, then 1% a week might be, more than something that you'll get. You might get more than that. It just depends. But for me, I would say that 1% is a good like area just to compare yourself to. So like if you get less than that, hey,
fine.
That's awesome. You're losing weight.
But
right?
if you're losing like 2, 3, 4% a week, you need to add food.
Yeah, that's a little bit too fast.
Now, if from a more quantifiable number, that's around the 0.5 pound to a pound-ish, 1.5 pounds tops per week lost. Here's the thing though, guys. First of all, that doesn't mean you have to lose that much. If you lose a 1/4 pound a week, that's still good progress. Because understand this, any progress is progress. Like a lot of people are like, well, what's good progress? Like any, like if like the scale hasn't moved, but your pants are fitting better, That's progress in my eyes. If you like lost a quarter of an inch off your stomach from like a tape measure in a month, like dope. That's amazing as fuck. If you just have more energy or you sleep better or your circulation's a little bit better, your blood pressure gets a little bit better. Like that's where it's at. Where people go wrong is they're like, no, it had like, it's because I hate it. So many of these apps like MyFitnessPal and Lose It and all the calorie apps will give people options to lose like 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds per week. And then when they don't, they're shitty. It's like, I've only lost a pound this week, but Karen lost 5. Like, okay, let's put on our adult pants and have a conversation about this. It's because understand this, guys, this is a huge fact. People think it's linear. Very rarely in any form of progress. Oh, damn, Shawnee.
It's getting hot.
Oh, damn. Drink coffee, these lights, and pop a flex, Grant.
Can't do it.
Flex on him. Flex on him.
Can't do it.
Oh, but anyway, like.
But anyway.
Yeah, of course, there's a part that was off the camera. You're like, hey, let's have an arm wrestle. Winner gets the last 2 donuts.
Hell yeah.
But no, like we should talk about how progress in any capacity, but right now fat loss is not linear. Like a lot of people think 500 calorie deficit times 7 days a week equals a pound of fat lost per week every fucking week till, the cows come home.
Right. And that's just not how that works. So I think the easiest way to understand this is that your body is literally an adaptation machine.
Yep.
So everything that you throw out your body, if that's going to be like, so we'll be talking about food, but same thing. Like that's why you get stronger is because you throw weight at it and then your body, adapts to it and then you get stronger. But so in terms of like fat loss, whatever you are putting into your mouth consistently, your body will adapt to that. So like, let's say that,
that's honestly what weight loss is your body is adapting to the calorie intake. So it gets rid of the excess weight.
Right. Because basically, so like, let's say for Jared to do absolutely nothing every single day, but for his body to keep him breathing, he needs 2,000 calories. So if he eats above that, his body is going to store that as fat, for excess energy that he can use later on. And so on the inverse of that, if he eats in deficit, your body has to compensate because if he needs 2,000 calories to live, his body's obviously not just going to let him die there. Right. So he's going to pull from his fat reserves. And that will be the energy, that what would you call that? The energy deficit, I guess.
Yeah, that's literally the game. But
over time, your body will adapt to that. So like, let's say that Jared eats at, 1,700 when his maintenance is 2,000. Then over time, maybe here in a couple months or something like that, 1,700 will be his new maintenance level.
And that's what happens a lot, guys. You'll see people that'll be dieting for 6, 7, 8 months. And they're like eating 1,300 calories and they're like, fuck, man, I can't lose any more weight. And I feel like shit. And it's the concept of reverse dieting. I have a video in my feed talking about it. That's why the concept of adding calories back in, like, almost doesn't make sense. It's like, wait, if I can't lose, I've dieted for 6 months and I can't lose any more weight. It's weird, and I'm eating 1,400 calories. How's going to 1,600 going to make me lose weight? Then you could lose weight. And it's not, but here's the thing. People are like, oh, it's because of starvation mode. Like, no, you're literally blinking less. You're fidgeting less. Your body your workouts, I promise you, are not as good as they used to be. So all these things that allows your body to burn more calories and produce more energy is not doing as much. I don't know why my dog is freaking out in the other room. And now Remy, who is in here with us, is concerned why Lily is in the other room barking. Hey, stop it. No. But no, does that make sense, guys? Where like over time, dieting as a whole over time slows down the metabolism because that metabolism and everything is adapting to the lower calorie limits. So with that being said, if it can do that in a deficit, it can do that I don't want to say in a surplus, but adding more calories back in because the law of polarity. If you can go this way, you can go this way. The problem is most people overeat and they're overweight and they're like, I'm going to reverse diet. And then they go from overeating to super overeating for the sake of reverse diet and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, and so this is probably a good reason now that we've kind of explained like how your body can metabolically adapt to, the new calorie intake that you have. So the reason why you don't want to, and why we say that like you should never lose like 4 to 5% of your body weight per week is because, so think about what that's going to do to your metabolism, right? So if your body needs to maintain itself, a 2,000 calorie every single day. If it needs 2,000 calories, and then, you go to an extreme to try to lose as much weight as possible, and you start eating, in 1,000 calorie or deficit, then your body's going to adapt to that. And then that's going to be your new maintenance level.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're going to hate your life when that happens. Then you're going to have to reverse diet. So your metabolism is never necessarily ruined, but you're really going to fuck yourself up doing that.
Yeah.
Because you can always reverse. I mean, unless there are some like super extreme cases where you couldn't reverse diet your way out of that.
I mean,
but
I feel like though, like the people who be watching this, like that's like, I feel I could be wrong and I'm not a doctor, but I feel like in order to do that, you would have to like be so malnourished, barely above dying that to do that. But a lot of people like basically ate 1,200 calories for 4 weeks and they're like, my metabolism ruined.
Yeah, no. So for you to like legitimately, irreversibly wreck your metabolism, like no one out there that's watching this, unless you're just going to some extreme protocol, and none of you are gonna have to worry about that.
Right. But let me say this along the lines of good fat loss progress. I'm gonna tell a little bit of a story. One of my girls that's been in my online coaching program, she basically started when she was working out with me. Is he licking the shit out of your leg?
I made him stop.
Okay. So basically, when she started working with me, she was already eating 1,200 calories a day, the stereotypical female calorie intake, which is fucking stupid.
Right.
But the thing is, she was already eating 1,200 calories a day, couldn't lose weight. So that's why she's like, Jared, I need help. She applied for my program, got accepted. And my dogs are going nuts in the other room. And basically, she started working with me. Now, from being a good coach, I'm not going to say, oh, you aren't losing weight at 1,200. Let's go to 1,000. Let's go to 800 calories a day, because that's irresponsible. Well, oh my gosh, they're going ballistic. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but my two females like play really hard. My two female dogs, and then the other room barking at each other. But basically, I couldn't just be like, hey, we're gonna just go to 800, suck it up. No, we had to reverse diet her because she's actually a fitness coach herself. So she in fact was eating 1,200 calories a day. I didn't know that. Yeah, I actually get a fair amount of like trainers that need help. Because that's awesome. I think that's a really good sign of good coaches having a coach. Right. But basically, she was eating 1,200 calories a day, couldn't lose weight. And she's a smaller girl in general, but I said, all right, we need to get your calories higher to give us any room. So we reverse dieted her and got her up to, over the course of weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, got her to about 2,000 calories, 1,200 a day. Now 2,000 a day. Guess what happened? She lost some weight. Now she was getting a little bit upset because she's like, Jared, it's been like 6 weeks and I haven't lost any weight. I'm like, first of all, we've been reverse dieting. So the fact that if you stayed the same while adding 800 calories a day we didn't go from 1,200 to 2,000, but over the course of 6 weeks,
that's incredible.
8 weeks added basically got her eating 2,000 calories a day from 1,200 and didn't gain any weight. That in itself is progress. Mm-hmm. Because that's the thing, is you got to look at this guys through a different lens. A lot of people say, "Oh, I only progress if I lose weight." But no. But what if you you maintain, but you change everything else? Like imagine this. So let's say you work, Grant. Let's say you work 40 hours a week and make this much money. Would it not be a raise if you made the same amount of money but worked half the hours? Mm-hmm. Think about it. Like. Yeah, they're both forms of progress, but people don't look at it through that way. A lot of people are short-sighted and they're like, no, it's only if I lose weight. Like, no, it's been over the holidays and you've worked out less, ate more, and maintained your progress. So like on that front, there's still that you progress, not just because you didn't lose weight. So understanding that there's multiple forms of progress, maintenance is progress, especially if you keep your success. A lot of people they'll plateau and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't lose weight. I didn't move forward. It's like, no, not falling back into old ways is progress, right? Because you kept your success. It's like, you ever see a business make a bunch of money, then we go bankrupt, versus they make money and they make that same amount of money every year for the next 10 years. Like they're in business, that's right. Still progress. But back to my kind of got off topic, back to my story with the coaching client of mine. She added back calories and she actually lost a few inches. Her clothes are fitting better that weren't fitting her before. The scale was going to be up, of course, because she's up calories and food in her stomach and glycogen stores, but the scale may be up a few pounds, but she was fitting in skirts that physically didn't fit before, or wearing jeans that physically didn't fit before. And then now we're at 2,000 calories. Now we got room to drop. Now we can go from 2,000 to 1,800. And guess what? She lost more weight and she got leaner. But even still, she was, I think a dog is licking
He's
the
licking
door.
the door.
And but she was a little upset. She's like, Jared, I just feel like I should be further along. And I'm like, what is further along? This is one of my favorite questions to ask people who get upset. And they're like, I just feel like I should lose more.
Yeah.
And,
Good progress?
and I go, what is good progress? And they're like, I don't know. I should have lost 10 pounds by now. And I go, you just thought of that literally just now.
Mhm.
Like, and that's the thing is most people who are upset with progress, you say, what is good progress? And they do this. They look up and they go, and they spit out a random number that has no education behind it or context. And they thought of it that second. That's
Right.
the problem. Most
Well,
people,
I mean, and it's just like, if you're like, let's say you're working a job and then, you just start randomly making more money on the side, you're making more money. You're not going to be upset about that. Progress is progress.
yeah, that's the thing is you guys have to understand progress is just like Grant said, progress. People who get pissy and upset because they're progressing not fast enough and they're shitty about it is like complaining you found $5 on the ground when you wanted to find a 20. You can just shove him off. Get off.
I wanted to get him in the camera for a second so people could see that he was a real thing.
Yeah, come here, bub. Remy, get off. Come here.
He went right for the armpit.
Come here.
Remy, that was
He loves armpits.
that was absolutely
Hey, come
disgusting. I've been training people all day and I did a workout myself and he just got a big old lick of the armpit.
Dude, he's got this weird
that is
things
disgusting.
for armpits. I don't know. It's so flavorful. What's up, Bubba? Say hi to the world of YouTube. But yeah, do you have any more on that front?
On the fat loss?
Good fat loss progress.
No, I mean the only other tip that I would just so
He sees the donut.
a couple things. Number one, understand that scale weight doesn't always correlate with fat loss, right? So that can work on both ends of the spectrum, right? So like you might be adding weight, but that weight might be muscle. You might be losing weight, but that weight might be like, water or something like that. So just understand that there's a lot of different things and to not let the scale dictate your life and rule your life.
Well, I will add a lot of people are going off of random weight, not daily weight and averages. A lot
Right.
of people weigh themselves on a high weight day, but they're actually down weight and fat, but you have no context.
Yeah. So the scales, I mean, it's like Jared said before, and I think he probably has mentioned this already. That's one metric, right? There are hundreds of metrics. How are your clothes fitting? There are so many health markers. How are you feeling? Has your strength gone up? Are you sleeping better? There's all kinds of, indicators out there that will, ultimately tell you like, how you're actually doing. But, definitely don't let the scale rule your weight or don't let the scale rule your life. Yeah. But I guess the biggest tip that I have is, even if you didn't listen to anything about like the, percent of your body weight per week, whatever expectation you have going into it, maybe it even is a percent of your body weight per week, half that.
Well, and make it more like people say, well, Jared, how much ideally, what's good progress if I want to lose 20 pounds? I'm like, okay, think of whatever's good progress and now add like a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing, guys, you have to understand there is no deadline. Like I'm all about having a sense of urgency, but there's no deadline. A lot of people put way too much pressure on themselves and they're like, when you're on your deathbed, when you're like 107, you're not going to care whether it took you, 20 years ago, that would make you like still really old. So let's say 50 years ago, it's not going to matter whether it took you 6 months to get your progress, to get your goal or 16 months. It's not going to make a difference. But the problem is most people do things that are not sustainable to get to a goal versus I would rather, and I ask like every coaching client of mine this before we ever get started. I say, would you rather get to your goal faster, but in a really unsustainable way? Or would you rather take a lot longer getting to your goal, but do it completely sustainably where you can keep it for the rest of your life? And every one of them say, I want to do it slower and more sustainably. And then we get in the trenches and they're like, but I feel like I should be losing more progress. I'm like, oh, you remember when you said this?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to when we're thinking logically, because it's easy to get emotional about all this stuff. So let's get into more along the muscle gain train.
Sure. So
muscle gain train.
This is actually something that that I have spent a lot of time looking into. So you'll like if you were to just go out there and Google like, if I am new to the gym, I've, never lifted a weight in my life. How much muscle can I expect to put on in my first year of lifting? Like, depending on what site you go to, I've seen one that's like, you can gain 40 pounds to 50 pounds your first year. I've seen something as high as like 20 pounds. And so let me just put this into perspective for you guys. So if you are a natural lifter, so let's say that you are just have freak genetics, right? So like you are legitimately like an alien. You have alien DNA. Like you're a Martian. You flew in on a rocket. You came to Earth to lift weights and get jacked. If you have that level freak genetics, your first year, 10 to 12 pounds. And that's assuming that your workout routine is on point, your diet is consistent, your sleep is consistent. If everything is on point and you are just an absolute freak, borderline alien, maybe 10 to 12 pounds in a year.
Yeah.
Now, if you're, not a freak, like the vast majority of people out there, if everything is consistent, 4 to 8 pounds in your first year is really fucking good.
Yeah. And we're talking about actual lean tissue, not just getting fat.
Right.
Now, are there total freaks who are like defying everything that we say? Yeah. Like I believe I know one. But that's just a straight freak, like freak of a freak in terms of genetics and their results. Cause you can't, at the end of the day, you can't argue with results. But a couple things. Number one, most people aren't that. Most people have very normal genetics and things like that. And number two, just because someone else has better, whether muscle gain or fat loss, just because someone else had really crazy results doesn't mean you're not seeing the whole story. Most people who let you see that, only they see the highlight reel.
Right.
Like for example, someone will see somebody who lost 40 pounds in 3 months, which is crazy. And then they like, oh, well, if I lost anything less than that, then I'm not worthy or I'm not good enough. But like, you don't know that they ate 800 calories a day, hated their fucking life, damn near died because they starved themselves that much, spent 3 hours a day in the gym. Like I wouldn't want to trade my situation for theirs.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when it comes to this stuff, you have to understand that there's a lot that you're not going to see because it's, social media is a highlight reel. So a lot of people aren't going to let you see the bullshit they went through to get that. It's like, you may see a guy in your gym who put on, 40 pounds of tissue in a year, but that same guy might also be on gear and, and he's going to die 10 years early. So you don't necessarily wouldn't want to necessarily trade your situation.
Right. Well, just to put it in perspective for you guys. So like, let's say that you, throughout your entire life are a natural lifter, right? So I'm talking like you've got like 3-4 decades of lifting under your belt. Like a phenomenal goal to strive for, like a lifelong goal would be like 40 to 50 pounds of muscle in a lifetime. Like 40 to 50 pounds in a year, it doesn't happen.
Well, understand this too. The more of a gym and fitness veteran you are, like these guys that have been like, especially as you progress, the percentages of success you're going to, or not percentage of success, the strides you're going to make are smaller. Like think about it this way. How much better can Michael Phelps really get at swimming?
Right.
Like from, let's say Michael Phelps, best swimmer in the world. When he's getting better at swimming, he's not making the strides he was making when he was in 8th grade. It's one of those things is the longer you train, the longer you diet, the longer you are in this world, the smaller increments you're going to make.
Right.
So like I said, for Michael Phelps to get better at swimming, you're talking about like 0.5% better than he was last year, let alone like an 8th grade kid and then a 12th grade kid swimming. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people forget that, especially if you've like gone from like I've got a kid right now that I coach. It's Jackson. Jackson has put on an obscene amount of muscle tissue in the past year and a half, which I'm super stoked about. But one of my, he's like going way beyond a lot of, like he's kind of a freak with his genetics, I think, because his results, he's gained like way more than what I ever thought he would have gained. But his results, you can't lie. They don't lie. I mean, he's literally the same, actually the same level of leanness, about not leaner, and he's 40 pounds on the scale heavier. And everything's progressing. But I'm letting him know right now. I'm like, dude, listen, you're killing it right now. So we're going to milk this. I said, but you're going to hit a wall where I said, it's not practical to think you're going to gain 40 pounds every year and a half. Because I mean, that's just not and I think practical.
An important thing to throw in here so Jackson is a younger kid, and you've got the whole puberty thing going on. But so like if you're a person that's past puberty, you're 22, something like that. Like you just have to be very realistic and understand that like if you're a 22-year-old and you gained 10 pounds of muscle in your first year of lifting, kudos to you. That is like mind blowing.
But imagine thinking realistic. What if you kept that rate up? So in 1 year you gained 10 pounds. In 2 years you gained 20. Does that mean like it's not practical to keep that going? Like a lot of people will say, "Oh, Jared, I gained." And of course, someone who's like brand new to lifting over the course of a year may have added, let's say, 100 pounds of their bench. They started out lifting, they could barely do the bar, and at the end of a year, now they can do 145, which is that happens all the time. And then they're pissed because the next year they only gained like 20 pounds on their bench. But like, think about it. If you gained an average of 10 pounds on your bench every year for 10 years, you'd be benching 1,000 pounds. No one benches 1,000 pounds.
Right.
Like Thor doesn't, like World's Strongest Man, Eddie Hall does not bench. Does he bench 1,000? No, motherfucker deadlifts 1,000.
I think the world record bench right now is like 945.
Yeah, but like, think about it. Like, that's not practical. Think about your kid. You see a baby think about how much a baby grows from out of the womb to 1 year old. Like the amount of growth that baby has, that slows down as we be an adult. Like if we kept, thank God, if we freaking grew that much every day for the rest of our lives, it'd be crazy. So people take that and they look at fat loss and they don't think it's the same, where it's very much the same. You may have faster, bigger progress in the beginning, but it's going to be slow down. Yeah. And the better you get, it's just going to slow down. Like think about the guy who what was that guy who just ran, like set a new world record for the Ironman. Did like an Ironman in like no, I'm sorry, he did a 5K in like an hour. No, like 159. He did like averaged
any kind of cardio related things. I have no idea.
This guy literally ran. I set a record. He ran a 5K, 26 miles. I think 26 miles is a 5K, but he did it at a pace of.
Isn't a 5K 3.1 miles? Are you thinking?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not 5K.
Are you thinking of a half marathon?
No, I'm thinking of a marathon, a full marathon.
Oh, okay.
Dude run a full marathon at a rate of a 4:30 for 26 miles straight.
Damn.
Legit. I want to say that's is that 14 miles an hour?
It'd be like
for almost 2 hours straight. I think he did it in like an hour and 59.
That's crazy.
But imagine for that guy to get 30 more seconds on his mile. He go from a 4-minute mile for 26 miles to a 4-minute mile from 4:30 to 4. That's not going to happen, right. Or at least this year. I think that's where people get lost with their progress, because progress at the end of the day, guys, is not linear. It's very rarely is linear. You may go plateaus and strides and forever like this, and then out of nowhere does this, but you can't expect it to stay like this.
Really, sit down. I was gonna look it up, but it really doesn't matter. So there's and obviously, calculations are only, like they're only so good, right? But there's a I forget who it was. I think it was Dr. Eric Helms, maybe, that was the one that did this. But basically, he just took, like a ridiculous. I think the sample size on this was like 6,000 people, and it wasn't like your stereotypical research that a lot of people do with like what's the most optimal way to grow your legs. A lot of that stuff's bullshit because they take untrained people that have never, seen a weight in their life, and then it skews data and stuff like that. But anyway, so this one thing, he looked at like, everyone from, someone that's never touched a weight to people that have been lifting, for like 40 plus years, things like that. And he actually came up with a pretty cool calculator that kind of tells you where you could be with your genetic max potential. So it basically looks at like wrist circumference, age, height, weight, current BMI, ankle circumference, and you can get a, fairly reasonable calculation off that. And I think it also takes into account like neck size, but a bunch of different things. And so like for me, for example, and, I actually think that it holds some validity. So like for me, I would be like, my genetic max potential for the amount of muscle that I can carry would be about 180 pounds at about 10% body fat. So like, and if you think about it, that's pretty good, because that's a lot of fucking muscle.
It is. So, but I have one issue though. And I like, even if this guy has studies and all that stuff, because there's one piece of data that I think skews it, is if someone decides mentally, like we were talking about crazy deep psychology, if someone decides that's their max potential, because let's say for example, because we also know the placebo effect is scientifically sound, where people have gone way out out of what scientists say that their max potential is.
Sure.
Just because they didn't know better. So like, let's say, for example, you say right now your max potential is 185 pounds at 10% body fat. And that's about as max as you can do.
Right.
And so we will make that decision here. And then like, it will literally set that spot where like, oh, that's obviously impossible to go beyond that. But like, there's the side, like, what if that data said you could be 215 at 8% body fat? And then you said, oh, okay. And then it's possible in your head, then you become that. Because
I mean, and again, I think it's important to note that it is just a calculation. Like, you know, my genetic max potential might actually be 210 pounds.
Yeah. Remy, quit.
But the whole thing about it is like, so bone can only carry a certain amount of muscle. So like it basically just looks at like where you currently are. And then, because I forget what it is, I think it's like a 5-to-1 ratio, but it basically takes like, you know, the circumference of different like, you know, bones that would kind of give a good indication, just like as a whole. Because
I've always wondered how someone can accurately measure like what max or what your genetic potential is. Because obviously there's something like, it's not like I'm not going to weigh 1,000 pounds of tissue. Like that's impossible. Like I say that's impossible. Right. But like, even like back in the day, I know technology wasn't as good as it is now. Like a 4-minute mile was scientifically impossible. Like scientists said, and doctors said, your heart physically will explode in your chest if you run like they ran the data and they're like, if you physically run that fast, your heart will explode. Some cocky bastard said, bet, and did it. And then the day after, like 20 some thousand people did it. So I think there's that throws things off.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool too, because like the genetic max potential is, what's the right word for that? It's not like a real thing, because the thing is you will never, so that is assuming that your life is like a piece of paper and everything is just like paper perfect. Like, so like the thing is like, no one is ever perfect. Like even Arnold Schwarzenegger, no one is perfect. So you can never really, like, you can't actually determine a max potential because no one is that perfect that they could even get to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And well, there's still a level of stuff that we can't measure. Like, for example, the placebo side of things, you know, like it's proven that like, Grant, you have all these weird aches and pains and rashes, take this pill and it'll go away. And you go, oh, okay. And you do it and they're gone. And it literally, the placebo pill took rashes away because you made the decision here.
Isn't that weird?
Here's why, because thoughts can influence DNA. Thoughts, beliefs, and all this subconscious stuff can completely alter your DNA and protein expressions. Like that's just black and white data. So with that being said, like genetic make may say this, but if thoughts and emotions and subconscious beliefs can change DNA, then like what is your and change your genes, then like it changes then the genetic potential, arguably, which is just, I just finished reading a book on this by a neuroscientist, and it's just like,
it's cool.
It's fascinating.
Well, have you ever thought about like, and this is going way the fuck off tangent, like that we still don't know, like the little, our like subconscious, like the little voice in our head, we don't know what the fuck that is.
Here's the other part too. Here's the other thing too, is I think there's just so many other factors that would influence what.
Jimmy, the donuts are gone, my friend. Congratulations on your 275 squat. That was a big win.
There's so many other factors that influence what our genetic potential is. So let's say you lifted with a bunch of 165-pound dudes, but then your max potential, if those were your training partners consistently for the next 10 years. But now imagine if Eddie Hall, Brian Shaw, and Hap Thor were your training partners for the next 10 years.
Probably put on some more weight.
Well, here's the other thing. Environment signals your DNA.
Yeah. I mean,
but because those two things are different, just your environment alone at such a small level, like a training partner, but those would have two different outcomes.
Right.
I mean, it's, you know, it's like, I know we're total different beings, but like the whole like thing with like fish will only, like a goldfish will only grow as big as its environment. So like, I think, but in that'll totally alter a fish, you know, whether it's in a fish bowl or in the ocean before it dies. But like, that's my thing with under genetic potential. It's like, I think it's so hard of a thing to pin. It's fascinating to me, but I think, with that being said, people need to have realistic expectations, understand what they're getting themselves into, you know?
Yeah. Well, see, but I think that like, I mean, I say that, I mean, like, obviously, like if you're doing it natural and not like pushing yourself past with drugs, I mean,
I mean,
It's
talking
some-
about with being natural.
Yeah, well, like I mean, but because I mean, if you think about it, like by the time you're, fuck, I don't even know when does your heart fully develop. Like, I mean, your body, like like if you were to go to, so like everything has to work kind of.
Jim hates you.
I love you, Jimmy. He actually has like a I don't know 315 squat or something like that.
I think Jimmy benches more than he squats.
He might. That's hard to say. But well, because it's kind of interesting because like at some point like your body can only sustain. I mean, that's why like a lot of the bodybuilders and shit die when they're like 50
Quick.
because they're 245 pounds of lean muscle mass because your body just physically can't hold onto that much mass without it just destroying itself.
I've heard of a lot of that
there
happening.
are a lot of things like that where there's like like even if you go so far as to like blood count and like just blood oxygenation and shit like that. Like I mean, your body can only hold so much, and I think that's kind of where the like the 5-to-1 ratio came.
Well, I like that was a big concern when Dallas McCarver died. Like even though like I can't remember what the medical like the medical chart that showed what he technically died of. But like you can't help but like, and he had before he died, he had medical issues and like passed out on stage and all this other stuff. But forget like putting drugs aside, putting lifestyle aside, just the fact like that motherfucker weighed 350 at 8% body fat at 5'6".
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like think about that. Like literally he's my height, but Dallas, and I've met Dallas several times before he passed, and he's a good motherfucker, but like dude was like 5'6", 5'8", something like that. Dude weighed like a solid like I want to say he weighed around 300 pounds at like 8% body fat. That's not easy on the heart. It's not easy on organs.
No.
I mean, it's just crazy. But
well, and that's just like so cool and like an interesting way to think about things too.
Goldfish always grow. The outside may stop it. The organs continue to grow and will explode. The goldfish. Random fun facts for the That's smart. I had no idea that the organs will make them blow up. Is that why the ones in the pet store have big eyes that stick out like this? I'm just kidding. I think that's a different species, but whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a species.
Big ass googly eyes. It's like
but
like half hammerhead, half goldfish.
But like genetics are cool too because like if let's say that we had the power to basically like take me and Arnold for example, if I could literally live in Austria, grow up as Arnold did, eat the same, like literally live his life in the exact same ways, exact same work ethic, everything like that, I would be not even anywhere fucking close.
Totally different.
Even if, I'm talking like the same drugs, everything like that, wouldn't even be fucking close.
Yeah.
Like genetics just, and I mean, to some degree with fat loss too.
Yeah. Well, it's that reason alone why some people carry their weight different. Some people have 0 love handles and big belly. Some people have small belly and big love handles. Some people, the face, they may have abs and a round face versus some people may get a really bony jaw and have all the fat on their, I don't know, calves.
Yeah.
The one thing I've yet to see is a big fat roll on the forehead. Just,
I don't think I've ever seen that either.
It's always fascinated me why the body stores fat even across the board the way it does. Where like, for example, earlobes and ears don't get fat, forehead doesn't get fat. Like the nose doesn't get that fat. I've seen some facial features change, like the nose may shrink a little bit, but like, now I figured this is from like wearing, I've always wondered like societally with the clothes we wear, like no one ever stores copious amounts of fat, or like there's not as much fat where the pants like lie, for example. So I almost wondered if we'd store fat if we were all naked all the time.
Wait, what?
Like think about where in terms of how the body stores fat with us wearing clothes every day. Like a lot of people, like they may have fat on their legs, fat on the midsection, but then let's say like right at the hips where the pants sit every single day, if there's fat, it's nowhere near the comparison as anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's where like the muffin top comes from. Right. So I've always wondered if as a society we didn't wear clothes, if that would change. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, so like kind of. So I mean, from like the ages of like from the time that you're born until about 4, like that's why it's really crucial for kids not to become obese, is because like that's when adipose that's why like typically you see, you know, men.
Let's do some Q&A. I got some Q&A right here. Let's.
Oh wait, we never even talked about. What was the second thing that we were going to talk about?
Oh fuck, we never did. Holy shit. Okay, maybe we won't do Q&A. Okay, so let's transition from what realistic progress looks like to
What were we?
how to if you gained your weight having lost it all.
Okay, this will be a quick, easy one.
How to handle it. So
That was me.
Okay, do you want me to start this one, or do you want to start it?
Go ahead.
Okay, understand this, guys. There's so much to this stuff. The question is, if you have lost weight, let's just use numbers. You've lost, let's say, 50 pounds and now gained it all back. How do you go about losing it again? A couple things. Number one, you do it. You would literally go back to just how you lost it, like any other way that we talk about: calorie deficit, strength training, time consistency, no extremes, that stuff. You may have gained it back, but you lose it the same way. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of a side road here, because my concern is why you gained it back. Because if you did it, let me take a step back. No matter what, to keep your success, you're going to have to continue the habits that got you there. Now, my concern would be if you gain it all back, what was, did you do it in an unsustainable fashion?
Right.
A lot of people like this, they lost 40 pounds on keto, then they decide to, it's my computer. It's like, let's say someone lost 40 pounds on keto, then they realize carbs are life, and then they gain 50 back.
Right.
Then they're like, fuck. Now here's the sad thing. A lot of people have the mentality, oh, I'm just going to do keto again. It's like, I know it's clickbaity, but like Einstein's thing with like the insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Like, you can't do that.
Right.
You know? So
let me ask you this. Would you say that a lot of the people that like lose a lot of the weight and then it comes back, would you say that, because I very rarely see that unless they did it in a very unsustainable fashion.
Oh, I see that. I see people that literally just like life got crazy. Like they went from a very active job while they were dieting to like a less active job.
Really?
And they stay dieting, but because their just movement changed, it fucks things up. But yeah, I've seen that before. Just because there's a level of discipline at any capacity, even if it's sustainable. Like let's say calorie tracking, and eating in a deficit.
Buddy,
Remy, quit.
you move on from one leg to the other.
Hang on, he's tangled up.
Poor boy.
But it's that kind of thing. No matter what, you're going to have discipline that you're going to have to implement. So with a lot of this stuff, even if it's sustainable, there's a level of discipline you're going to have to maintain. So that's why I'm a big fan. I just did a podcast on this. You should not be using copious amounts of discipline and willpower. That's like the goal is to use honestly as little as possible, because what you're doing shouldn't be so hard that you have to use copious amounts of discipline. Like we just had donuts. Like, was there a little bit of discipline with like me not eating all 4? Yeah, but that's nothing compared to me never having sugar ever again. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people, when they get into this stuff, that it's so easy to do something that's quick and unsustainable that you know is going to generate results. It's like, I don't know, starving yourself or eating no carbs for the rest of your life. But then when it comes time to maintain it, you know, and then you gain weight back because it wasn't sustainable, it becomes hard, because then it's like, well, what do I do? Well, I'm only going to do what worked before, thinking it's going to be sustainable. So that's my thing is, if you just life got busy, life got crazy, and you fucked up and you gained your weight back, you just go about it in a sustainable way, like that we talk about. But don't fall victim to just doing it what worked last time that was unsustainable, because I'm concerned why you couldn't maintain it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that would always be my biggest thing, is like, you know, because I'm trying to think. I mean, I know like in certain circumstances, stuff obviously does just happen. And I do know some people that have lost a bunch of weight and gained a lot of it back. But I feel like for the vast majority of people, like if they've gone through like a giant transformation, a lot of the times that just kind of becomes their life. But I don't know. I think a lot of the times, like if that does happen to you, you're kind of in a good spot, because you did it once, you know how to do it again.
100%. Well, I would argue that they know how to do it again if they only did it in unsustainable ways.
Right.
I mean, they know it's possible. It's like, hey, I've lost 40 pounds before. I know I have the capabilities to do this again. Let's just do about it better.
And I will say the one thing.
Go about it better.
So like in big psychological things can happen to you when you do that. So like, let's say that you've been like super lean, right? And you know that you can be there, and then you know, shit gets crazy, and then you're not super lean anymore.
It can fuck with you. This is why a lot of bodybuilders have like psychological issues and binge eating disorders and like, you know, body dysmorphia and all this other stuff, because they're like holy shit, I can't walk around at 2% body fat
Right.
every day.
And I think the big thing to note with that is
Stop.
that yes, you might have been that way at one point in time, but you're gonna beat yourself up because like you're like, I know the rate at which I lost weight this last time. I know how I looked. I know how I did it before, but you're not the same person that you were during that time. Life's changed. You've changed. You've gotten older. So sometimes it's not always as simple as doing exactly what you did, and you can beat yourself up a lot of the times if you're doing exactly what you did, but shit's not working.
Well, here's
like
my
it did.
thing is you always should go from your where you're at right now as a reference point, not what you did before, not where you used to be. A lot of people will do that. They're let's say 300 pounds eating, I don't know, 5,000 calories a day. And then they're like, I'm going to lose weight. And they go like, I'm going to do what I did in high school. Versus like, no, stop. Your reference point should be from where you're at right now. It's just like your GPS. If you're at my house right here and you want to go to, I don't know, California, the GPS is going to start you from where you're at right now. It's not going to be your old house. Right. It's not going to be from wherever like Google Maps headquarters is. It's going to go from where you're at to where you're wanting to go, because that's where you're at. And the only way to move is walk out my front door, for example. But let's say we're at Grant's house and we want to go to California. It's good. Maps is going to show us from our starting point from where we're at right now. That's an amazing example.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to do a podcast on that. That's dope.
Like that.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I really have anything to add to that. I mean, the biggest things, don't beat yourself up. Like if something's happened, that's just life. Shit happens.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is to not beat yourself up. And again, go back to understanding that, if you did it once before, you can do it again.
Yeah, but understand if you did it in a stupid way, like drop your carbs or starve yourself or beat yourself into a hole with exercise and effort and all this stuff, that if you can't sustain it for the next 50 years, geez, bro, if you can't sustain it for the next 50 years, you really need to consider how you're going to do it.
Right.
We sleepy?
I'm tired.
Bro, you have coffee.
That's like a midnight drink that I
Oh my gosh. Don't do it. Don't be like Grant.
Yeah, don't be like me. Coffee's the devil.
That's right. And he brought me a cup of the devil. So
hell yeah.
All right, guys. I think we're gonna call our quits on that one. We're about an hour in. So
thank you for the goldfish fact, by the way. That's cool.
Good goldfish fact. Yeah, otherwise, guys, we do this every Thursday at 8:30 Eastern. Yeah. Unless there's like, I don't know, Thanksgiving was like last week and shit. So yeah, but otherwise, this is where you can find us. If you ever have questions or need anything or got stuff you want us to talk about on the show, be sure and message one of us. Otherwise, we will talk to you later. Bye. Bye. That's always the most fun.